I kind of feel like I look like a cottagecore fairy, but I'm not upset about it. Here we are. I wanted to do a full spin, but I can't. I didn't mean for this video to be so savage. Jesus. Hi, my name is Grace. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Today I'm going to be doing a books I love video, also a book review video. I've definitely been getting back into reading more as I'm kind of figuring out my life here in Chicago. For those of you who don't know, I recently moved to Chicago and am pursuing a career in acting while also, you know, working other jobs on the side. It's been an interesting journey trying to find a job out here. Both success and failure have happened, so I'm going to be doing a video about getting a job, all that kind of stuff in the future, but that is not what this video is about. So I have some books. There's more than just this little pile over here that I want to talk about today. I have some notes in my handy dandy little notebook, so if you see me looking down at any point, that is why. But I'm just gonna jump right in and give you some book recommendations. For those of you who don't know kind of what genre I'm usually into, I'm more of a fiction, fantasy, sci-fi, thriller, not necessarily horror, but like thriller, murder, mystery kind of vibe. I know that was a lot of genres, but those are my general kind of vibe. If I'm doing a nonfiction book, it's probably more of a realistic fiction rather than an actual nonfiction book. But I still sometimes will read like self-help books or witchy-based books, as you can probably tell by one of my things here in the background. But that's kind of my main genre ideal. If you're looking for recommendations in those kinds of genres, I will be recommending quite a few books from that. If you don't like those kinds of genres, I do have a few more miscellaneous books that you might enjoy, but that is the bulk of what I'm going to be recommending for you today. These recommendations are over the past like month and a half about, so June through July, and I do have a few online recommendations. So the first book that I have to recommend is, I'm going to put on the screen here because I don't have it physically with me. I read this on my Kindle. It is The Once and Future Witches, I believe. I don't remember the author's name, but I will put it up here. And basically, just a summary in general, it is about three sisters who have this thing called the witching. It's kind of a like early 20th century? Yeah, early 20th century. I always get confused by, you know, what is the 19th century? What is the 20th century? But like 1920s, that kind of era, the suffragette movement is happening, and it's basically a book about how three sisters come back together after a long time apart and them working in their own way toward pushing forward women's rights and bringing back kind of the old ways of women and how they used to take care of each other and take care of the children and take care of the community as a whole. So it was really awesome. It is also still more of a fantasy kind of book, but it is based in realistic fiction, I would say, with some fantasy elements rather than being a fully fantasized book. I mean, most fantasy books are also based in some element of realism, but this one has a more historical setting and then fantasy branches off from that point. But I would definitely recommend it. I would give this book like 4 out of 5 stars, I would say. It's definitely not one of the best books that I've ever read, but it is up there at the top, and I cried at the end, and if I cry, it's probably a good book. Although it doesn't take very much to make me cry, honestly. Especially these days, but neither here nor there. The next book that I want to talk about is a couple of books. I read both of them kind of interspersed in between my fantasy novels because I really don't like nonfiction, to be honest, as I said, and I read these 2 books by Glennon Doyle. I'm still working on reading the 3rd book. I'll probably read it either next after I finish the book I'm currently reading or after that. Haven't decided yet, but this is Carry On something Warrior? I don't know. I can't remember the titles. And then Love Warrior, I remember that one. But these are her kind of autobiographical self-help novels. They're definitely not really catered towards someone my age. They're probably more of catered, actually that's a lie. They're catered towards people who are my age but that are at a different point in life than I am, I would say. It's kind of more about the relationship you have with a spouse and the relationship you have with your children and like dealing through motherhood, and that is not something that I will be dealing with for a very long time, maybe ever. So if you don't have any like connections to that, you might not like this book, but it is very kind of self-helpy, and I did take some lessons from it that I will be using in my life. It's just a lot of it I couldn't relate to on that aspect, and then it is sort of a religiously undertoned book as well, both of them. Although her perspective on religion is something that I can really respect. I have a lot of trouble with people who use their religion as a weapon, but she is very much like what Christianity and Catholicism should be, in my opinion, and she just, it's focused more on love. Like God could be equated to love, and she does multiple times say like this could be your spiritual journey or with whatever kind of God you view, or just like energy as a whole in the universe. So I appreciated that, and I can take some of the things that she talked about into my spiritual life as well. But you know, being a Wiccan, the God stuff doesn't really vibe with me on that kind of a level, and it did get a little bit like cheesy in that way at some points, but I could definitely look past that and see kind of what she was getting at underneath. And it was never like hate focused, which is what I get irritated by, is people using scripture in order to back their hatred when it's not actually a thing in the Bible. Anyway, something else that I find really interesting about these books is the fact that, looking at it, she wrote the first one in 2013, I believe. No, I feel like it was earlier than that, maybe like 2006 or something. It's a while ago. And then the second one maybe was in 2013, but she recently in the past few years, came out as gay and is now divorced from her husband, and I think married to a woman now. So it's very, very interesting for me as someone who has recently come out as a lesbian, gay, whatever you want to call me. I don't really care. It's very interesting to see a lot of the internalized homophobia undertones in her writing, and see where I came from as well. And knowing that she is gay now, there's a lot of things that she says. She talks about not wanting to have sex with her husband, or like feeling bad for not wanting to have sex with him on that level, and I was like, yeah, I can relate. And it was just me like screaming at her like, you're gay, Glennon, that's why you don't want to have sex with him. It's not because there's something wrong with you, it's because you're into women and you have pushed that part of yourself so far down that you don't even know. But I really enjoyed those 2 books in that aspect, and I would give them both like a 2.5 to a 3 out of 5 stars. They weren't like the worst, but I definitely didn't need to read them. Did they help me in my life? Yes, I would say just for relating to seeing someone who has gone through similar things, that, not that I've been married in my life, but similar experiences internally as I have. Okay, I'm so sorry if anything's changed, but as all YouTubers say, my battery died in the middle of this, so here we are. Moving right along to this actual physical pile of books that I have with me. This is The House in the Cerulean Sea. Please, please read this. Honestly, the description on top of this is perfect to describe what this book is. The person says, "I loved it. It is like being wrapped up in a big gay blanket. Simply perfect." And that's exactly how I would describe this. If you're looking for a book that has fantasy elements, also has romantic elements in it as well, it is a gay romance. If you don't like that, don't fucking read the book. I don't know what to tell you. You've been reading heteronormative romance probably most of your life and you haven't complained about it, but that's just my opinion. I didn't mean for this video to be so savage, Jesus. Once again, I cried at the end of this book. It's basically about a caseworker who works for the department in charge of magical youth. He has to go around to all the orphanages to make sure that they are up to speed, that they're taking care of the kids properly, and he kind of just like dissociates himself from his work. So he goes, visits the orphanage, stays there for a week to a month depending on where he's going, and assesses them and then leaves, and never really knows what happens to the kids who were there. Hopefully they go to a better place, but you know, it's very similar to the reality of the foster care system. He is summoned to take care of this very like undercover, exclusive, what word am I thinking of? Highly classified, that's the word I'm thinking of. A classified assignment to an orphanage with very volatile magical youth, and basically finds a family there that he didn't know he was going to have. So as I said, I sobbed at the end of this. Very good. It's fantasy with a sprinkling of romance. It's not romantic focused, so if you're not usually into that kind of stuff, I would say that this won't be a problem for you. It's more focused on the characters and the story than it is on the specific romance that happens in this book, but very cute. I love it, and I know a lot of people on Book Talk and here have been recommending it, but it's definitely worth it. So, you know, I always go through one of those things where when people recommend something to me or are speaking highly of it, sometimes I don't want to read it or watch it because I just want to be different. It's like Hamilton. I didn't want to listen to Hamilton when it first came out. It happens a lot with musicals for me, being a musical person. Musical acting person, theater person, but you know, you get that like, do I really want to do what everyone else is doing? But in this case, yes, you do want to cry at the end of this. Same thing with this book, Midnight Library. It is truly incredible. I will say there is a trigger warning for suicide, just to let you know. It's very clear, like that is not a spoiler, that is not a giveaway, which is why I didn't say it was a spoiler. It is very well known when you pick up this book. It's on like the first page that it's going to happen. Even if you're reading the synopsis, you will know. But I just wanted to say that in case anyone is severely triggered by that or slightly triggered if you have issues, trauma with that, wanted to let you know. This book is basically about the in-between. Purgatory is kind of what I would equate it to, but it's not really the same. It's Midnight Library, so a place where you go after you have died or when you're dying, and you basically get to see all the other lives that you could have lived based on the choices that you've made thus far. And it's very much like a choose your own adventure, like a targeted choose your own adventure is how I would describe it. You're watching the character go through their own choose your own adventure. But it's very, very good. Once again, sobbed at the end of this. So if that tells you anything. Oh, I didn't give a star rating on this book. I would say 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of the best books that I've ever read. So I would say 5 out of 5 for that. I would also say 5 out of 5 for this book as well. Truly incredible. I liked the chapter style as well. Maybe 4.5 for this, or like 4.8. Maybe not 5. It was very close, but based on how I like to read books, this chapter style I didn't like as much. This chapter style, I made a TikTok about it. You basically have like a new chapter every couple of pages or every page depending on what the mood fits. And I really like that because I am someone who hates it so much when I have to stop reading a book in like the middle of a chapter and I can't just finish the chapter. Like I want to stop the end of the chapter and I want to start again at the beginning of the next chapter, and sometimes that's not possible just with time or whatever when you're on the bus reading a book. So this was very nice because it's short chapters, so you feel like, you know, you're accomplishing something and you're getting through something, and it's really easy to stop and start again. Although I will say I did read this in pretty much one sitting, so love that book. So those are all the books that I have read in the past like month and a half, and I'm actually very proud of myself because I haven't read this many books. It's probably about, I think, works out to about a book a week so far. I haven't read this many books in a very long time, but I'm about halfway through this book, so I want to give like a short little review of this book. This is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which is recommended if you like this book, you'll like this book. If you like this book, you'll like this book, vice versa, all that kind of stuff. But this one is definitely a lot more dense than House in the Cerulean Sea, and I don't know if I like it as much because of that. It's definitely very cool. I'm only halfway through, but I also feel like this book has taken me until this point that I am in to really like start to pick up. It was a lot of exposition in the beginning, a lot of information, and I sometimes like that, but sometimes I just want to like get into the midst of the action and just jump right in and kind of figure out things for myself. Although I will say there are a lot of unknowns in this as well, but I've been enjoying that so far. I'm not going to give a rating on that until I'm done. I'm thinking about doing these kind of every month, every other month, depending on how many books I read in a month. So let me know if you like them and give it a thumbs up if you'd like to, and subscribe down below for more if you'd like to check out my other videos. There is my video on that side and my last vlog on that side. Hope you guys are surviving quarantine. We're pretty much out of it. If you haven't been vaccinated, please go get vaccinated. I know allergies are starting to hit people. Allergies are hitting me. I know there's a cold going around because of people starting to not wear their masks anymore. So take care of yourself, drink water, and cuddle a cat if you can. I'm looking at my cat sleeping behind the camera right now, so I'm gonna go snuggle him after this. But I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.